Do you want to know how we bought a Polaris Ranger for just over $15,000 and turned it into $22,000? Tune in. We're going to show you exactly how we turn this into a big time profit. If you are new to the channel, here at How Equipment, we buy and sell used equipment. If you want to see exactly what it takes to run an equipment dealership along with buying and selling used equipment, then look no further. Key with this stuff is you got to have your eyes peeled for what's out there, and so a deal popped up as we were searching, and this 2019 Polaris Ranger 1000 XP was listed for $17,000. We did a little bit of investigating on, the guy that was selling this. Did not have great reviews, so it's always a bit of a cause for concern as we're looking at these deals. Now, we sell a lot of ATV, side-by-sides, power sports, all sorts of things, and this one was a little bit outside of our typical buy, a little bit more on the high end, and we really had to look through some comparables and go through a process to figure out what we thought this was worth, because that's always kind of the million-dollar question when you're looking to buy and sell something, is what is it worth on the back end. So we did that in this case. Before getting really detailed on looking at all the comparables, I did get this seller down to $15,250, and that's when it was time to make my decision. Do I pull the trigger at that number or do I pass? First thing I do when I don't know the value of a machine is I go to NADA and I look at what it's going for. So the number on the left is what it sold for brand new. The number on the right is what they're selling for used. And this one is a little bit different because, with UTVs, you've got all these aftermarket or just add-on accessories, in this case stock accessories, and tremendously adds to the value. This is actually more comparable to a Polaris Ranger North Star. The North Stars have a full cab, heat, AC, and pretty much everything else you're looking at. The only difference is, with the one we're looking at in this case, is it does not have AC and it does not have power windows. Otherwise, it's pretty much the same. So I actually looked at the NAD on a North Star and one that was bone stock. I could have added some of those things in there to try to get a value in between. I think the value on this leans more towards the North Star, and besides that, we looked at some comparables. So there was another almost identical comparable machine, 2019 Polaris Ranger 1000 XP with the cab, with the heat, all the bells and whistles, 2,700 miles, and that one listed 5 days ago for $18,500. I'm always looking to see what is the absolute cheapest comparable that is out there on the market. This happened to be the one that was the most comparable. And with us, we put winches and plows on a lot of machines, which costs us money on, the back end, but it really helps to add value beyond even what we put into it a lot of the time. So maybe it's worth as low as $18,500. Really, it could be worth less than that number. But some of these other machines that are out there, you see there's a 2017 North Star, but it's got much higher miles, so I don't know that that's comparable because we're looking at one that's got lower miles. The thing that put me over the edge to buy this machine is I saw another guy who actually buys and sells stuff, and he had one listed for $21,000, almost a direct comparison to what we have here. I've seen actually this guy's listings out there, so I knew that, I didn't know if he had that exact machine. We got another guy who really knows the market. He's listing it up there at $21,000. Maybe it's closer to 20. It just kind of depends. So I pulled the trigger. I really didn't know 100%, but I figure worst case scenario, I'm making a couple $1,000, which when you're spending 15 grand, you want to make more than $1,000 or $2,000. That's a pretty high risk reward situation, so you want to have a bigger upside when you're spending that kind of money. So we got the Ranger back. Upon starting up, a little bit of noise I was hearing from the clutch area, so I wanted to get that checked out. Other than that, this thing really looked pretty good. A couple other little minor things, we're going to mention here, but we needed to take the clutch cover off and sort of investigate that right at the start, of checking the machine out. And so that's what we did first. And we're going to dive in and kind of see what Jason, our mechanic, is finding here.
You can see how right here it's down inside the secondary, but right here it's riding on the outside.
So Jason popped the clutch cover off, looked at it, kind of was under the impression that belt was worn, possibly creating a little bit of a vibration noise. You'll see we go a little bit down a rabbit hole here trying to figure out exactly what this vibration sound is that we're hearing. So what we thought was that the belt was worn initially. We ordered a new belt in, thinking possibly that would remedy the situation. 1 day shipping. We are a super ATV dealer, so we got the belt here, and Jason's finishing a project we got on a Sportsman right now. We pushed it out here. I think he took that cover off. Yeah, we got the clutch cover off, belt off. I think he left our pieces, so we're gonna push this guy back in here, throw the belt on. There we go. Moving fast. There's a little crack there. We're gonna have to get that piece. And this. Pressure down. Quite loose at that point. I don't know if you'll be able to just pull it. There we go. Got it.
You always want to put this on so you can read the lettering. There we go. Yeah. Sucked it into the secondary a little bit. See how this is sticking way out down here, and then it's way in the clutch right there?
What about a problem with
That's
the,
not
with the
right.
secondary?
I don't know if it's a problem with the secondary or just because that belt is too tight. I mean, it's got, what, 2,600 miles? So it could have a problem.
Thing
with
is, the
clutch.
other belt looked perfect. This belt is supposed to be the same one, and it's still making the same noise. And I had him run it with just the clutch because I thought maybe it was the primary, because I wasn't convinced it was the belt. But I'm wondering now, because it didn't make the noise with the primary, if it's the secondary.
Let's pull the secondary off then. Maybe it's not.
It might be the helix in there or whatever.
So we put the original belt back on and put this back on the shelf. I'm assuming it's not going to be this, and we look at the secondary.
Yeah, open the secondary up.
All right, we pulled it off. Looks like this, which scarred up. It's something that doesn't seem quite right to us. And there's a little piece in here that we're not sure. Seeing the light here, not sure if it's supposed to be there or not. That little sleeve. So we're trying to figure out if something's missing. We had another clutch off a Razor 1000. This was off like a 2016, and it's almost got like a little inner sleeve. So we're trying to figure out if. Seems like something's missing. We gotta figure out what it is.
So what happened is this collar came off and worked its way down the shaft and actually up into the seal there, which destroyed that seal. And then what happened after that is, because that collar was gone, this could just flop back and forth on that shaft. Because there was that collar was
Now
gone.
do we only need the seal, or do we need that little collar piece?
We're actually going to have to replace this whole half of the clutch, because this piece here is obviously supposed to be pressed in there. And however it came out, I don't know, but whether they didn't have it on all the way or whatever, but it came out and it actually cracked the clutch there and chewed up the inside of this. So a new bushing isn't actually gonna fit right inside of there.
And then this seal we gotta replace as well, it's up there?
Yeah, which little trick to getting these out, you just take a center punch and you just hit a center point in that seal, and then you just take a little bitty drill bit and drill a hole through that. This will work for crank seals too. Then you just take a drywall screw, a Phillips drywall screw, and you run it in that hole.
So you've already done the hole.
Yeah. And once you get it started, you can see it'll suck that bearing right out.
Now that, and you gotta be careful not to hit the numbers on there, because we've got a seal place in town, I guarantee they're gonna
And then actually,
seal.
look at that,
that bearing okay?
The spring for that seal. Look at that. Just destroyed that seal.
Okay.
I think the bearing's fine. That all feels good.
Alright, so this is what our diagram looks like. And this piece goes into the transmission, and then there's a seal, which we already showed you pulled out of that video. And this piece was over here buried in the seal in the transmission. So we pulled this apart like the diagram shows. And so this is the inner edge. It's that piece number 15, which got all the way outside of that. So we took it around and it fits like a glove right in there now. And I think that's how it's supposed to go in, but we've got some stress cracks, and on top of that, we're pretty doubtful it's supposed to have that crack there as well. So we're going to buy all 3 of these pieces, and I think it's going to quiet down. But before we do that, we're going to throw this back together this way and see if everything quiets down. So we knew really none of this before we bought the machine, thought this thing was good to go. We're not buying stuff that's got major issues. Actually didn't think there was any in this case. We're trying to buy them with absolutely no issues at all, because you end up finding out you got to fix certain things. So and that's why we inspect it. We're kind of adding that value for the customer on the back end. And you think you got something that's an absolute crazy score, it's still gonna be a phenomenal deal for us, but we're definitely gonna add some value here by doing this clutch work. So we're gonna put it in right now. Jason's putting it back on with the crack. We really just want to see if it's gonna quiet down. And if it does, we know we've got everything good to go. And we're just gonna order those 3 pieces that we already talked about. So that's kind of our hope, is just to double check. If we're hearing a loud noise still, we wonder if there's a piece that's missing, but I think this is going to be our solution. And grabbing the original belt, because we think the belt wasn't ever really the issue, and then we can put that super ATV belt back on the shelf. I'll give this to Jay. We went ahead and started the Ranger up, and it was quiet. It was purring just the way it should. So we got those parts on order. It's a matter of that stuff coming in at this point. Between now and then, we worked on just detailing that machine, making it look really good. A lot of fine tuning. There were certain screws that didn't have a nice finished polished look, so we replaced some of those. The shifter knob, actually, when they installed the navigation on there, hit the very corner of that navigation, so we had to just ever so slightly tweak that so it did not hit. So we worked on the fine details. We had to order a back tail light for it, so went through and did that stuff, and eventually the point we could go ahead and post this for sale. But it did take a little bit of time, probably a couple weeks actually, to get those parts, and that's certainly something to consider as you're trying to buy something that you got that money tied up for a period of time. We live in Michigan, and I'll tell you what, putting a winch and a plow on a machine, it really is the ticket to get these things to sell. So we actually elect, in a lot of cases, spend the money up front, pay for the winch, pay for the plow. We think it comes back and more on the back end when we go to sell. So we did that in this case. You're looking at our listing, and you want to highlight those features that the machine's got. It's a beautiful machine. And it was incredible on this one. We've sold a lot of machines, not a lot, over 22,000 like we decided to list in this case. I had a buyer hit me up from Cincinnati, about 5 hours away, probably about 30 minutes into the sale, set it up, and he drove up to come check it out. We had the Ranger listed for $22,000. The guy hit us with an offer of $20,000 right off the pop. Before coming, I said no. came back to me and said, look, I'll do $21,500. Of course, we have tax here as a shop as well. I said, I'll do $21,500 plus tax. If you want to come up, I will hold that for you. And, he came up and he bought the machine. It was clean, it was ready to go as advertised, and that's a value that we add as we inspect and fix things such as the clutch like we did in this video. It was a great flip for us, and this is my favorite part of the video. We break down the nitty-gritty, the numbers, and you can see exactly how much money we made on this flip. Okay, so the breakdown of the numbers. First of all, we bought the Ranger for $15,250. And after that point, we had, all of our expenses I'm going to show here coming up here. So when we went to pick this up, it cost $200. We are accounting for paying a person to pick this up, the fuel, the wear and tear on the vehicle. So it's actually above and beyond what it actually cost us that day. So we try to be really, close with that. And we will go into detail on that repair order. We had $1,978 of a number of different expenses, which I will talk about. And we put $150 of overhead as a blanket. We've got a building here, just for maintaining the building, all that, just take a little bit off the top, of every single sale, just to kind of account for that of what, the cost of doing business. And so here's some of those details, and I'm blocking, some of these on the screen, but we had 8.5 hours of shop time. We run that at $40 an hour, which is kind of our at cost, we'd say. And the tail light, the seal, we had those 3 parts for the clutch. You see, we put a winch and a plow on this. So we did put the drive belt on there as well, just because we had to buy one. We ended up putting that into our inventory, but all those things totaled to almost $2,000, which puts us at a total investment of $17,578. We've already disclosed, sold that Ranger for $21,500, and that's not a bad profit. $3,922. That's a great number. Always, we put down a good amount of money. If I'm putting $15,000, $17,000 into the pot here, I really need to see a return like that. If I'm only investing $1,000 or $2,000, then of course that profit point I would expect to be a lot lower. But I expect a good sized profit when we're investing that much money. And just to kind of break that down even just a little bit further there, we held that unit for 22 days. And so look at the investment there is kind of how I think about all this stuff as an investment, because I'm actually paying different people to do different things. Now, this profit would be much bigger if I did all the work myself. I'd probably be holding that longer. I wouldn't be able to do all these other things as well, that we've got going on here at How Equipment as far as flips go, just selling our new equipment. So a 22% profit, on that $17,000 investment, $17,578, that's not bad. $3,900, almost $4,000. So it was a great flip for us. Very pleased with how the numbers came out, and it really helps us know that market now, as far as what those Ranger XPs are selling for.